it's not a question about being good or bad. The first question is, does it work? Okay, that's the first question. Does it work? Now, if it works, then you have, I'm not saying right or wrong, but if it works, you have an argument to support the fact that this may be the easiest way around the problems of modern life. Of we have to go out, we have to do things, time is ticking, come on, things to be done. But here's the other side. It's all about marketing, right? The question is, what is the incentive?
Hmm.
Right?
Or
Who
benefit for her or for us.
exactly? Who wants to go outside?
Yeah, definitely parents.
Yeah, right. Right. So here we've got an incentive problem
Hmm.
because so we're back to incentives. See, I learned a long time ago that what I want is not important in the minds of other people.
Hmm.
What's
Yeah.
important in the minds of other people is what they want to do. And look, here's the example. You want your kids to go to the table. You can either tell them to go to the table or you can place an interesting object on the table and they will go to the table. Right? The interesting object,
Hmm.
in this case, an apple, becomes the incentive. And so the question is, what is the incentive to do the activity? Because children are not the child's brain is not processing things in the same way that the adult's brain. The
Hmm.
adult's brain is this is the logic of the world of society, and this is what we need to do because either it's good or it's right, or we have to do something else, or it's healthy, or for whatever reason
Hmm.
has to be done. There's not a choice, right? But the child's world is like, ooh, a million choices.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so it then becomes incentive. Now, every parent has a problem putting clothes on their kids. The kids resist. The kids want to do
Hmm.
other activities. Uh, like I was trying to get my youngest daughter, in a car the other day, and she was playing with the tablet, and she said, "I don't want to stop playing with the tablet. I don't, you know." And I said, "Okay, take the tablet to the car.
Hmm.
Continue playing the tablet if you take the tablet to the car." And that was, you know, my way around. I'm not going to say to her, "You have to stop this and do this." It's like, okay, how can we maneuver things so the incentive is where I want the incentive to be. And so um, we have to know what incentivizes the children. And why do you think children's clothes have pictures of animals and bears and unicorns and other things on them? It's to help the parents get the kids into the clothes and to make the kids fascinated by the clothes and want to wear them, right?
Hmm.
It's an incentive that's there. So um, we have to learn how to market towards the children, and um, there has to be something there that the children have an interest in. There's going to be times when the children's interests and the parents' interests are in conflict with each other. There's going to be time pressures when the parents don't have time to negotiate with the children, sadly. It's the modern world. It's like, oh, I got a call. We have to go. Put clothes on the kid. Kid starts screaming because they don't want to have the clothes on. Um, it's all about it's all about incentive and partly negotiation. The same thing that you did I have done. Right? I have done that. And yet I was never happy with myself doing that. That's just me, right? I was never happy with myself because I felt like it was a bit of a failure in my ability to incentivize and negotiate in the situation because it depends on the words people use. Let me give you a bad example, right? The bad example is you will be left here alone by yourself when me and mom go out. That's the bad example because that's putting fear into the mind of the child about being alone. Right? That's so. I mean, if it using that language in that way would be negative for the child because it would be using fear as an incentive. Have I used fear as an incentive? Yes, but I've never been comfortable with it. It's always been like I know I have to find a better way of communicating, and a lot of the problems in my experience come from, as I mentioned, time pressures. It's very good to have this progressive information flow with children. Like if you are going out in 1 hour, you say to the kids, and children don't really understand time. So I mean that's another issue as well. You know, is it 1 day or 1 week? You know, it's really complicated for them. So it just needs to be repeated and reinforced. Like soon we're going out. Soon we're going out. And then 5 minutes later, soon we're going out, so that there's programming and preparation in the child's mind. It just has to be repeated and repeated and repeated in advance. And even then, maybe it won't work because the child will be suddenly interested in something. I want to play with my little horse, or whatever it is that they like to do. They're going to be interested in something else. You know, take their interest with them. You can bring the horse with you. You can bring the book with you. We'll take all the stuff. We'll take all the toys. If I have to, I'll take an extra rucksack and put all the toys in the extra rucksack, and we'll take that, and we'll take that as well. We've got to. It portable. Make everything portable. Make everything something you can transfer and move with the child. That's difficult as well. So putting a child into a state of fear can have potential negative consequences because of the child's, until about 5 years old, children don't really have a concept of time. So 1 minute and the difference between 1 minute and 1 year for a 2-year-old can be the same. So you're going to be alone, even if it's only for a minute, can transfer in the child's mind to forever. And this is it's an unintended consequence. We don't want it to be like that. We don't mean it to be like that. But it is how the child's brain processes it like that. And we don't ever want to put children into an environment where let's be honest, we don't want to put them in an environment where it's going to be, I'm going to leave you. Because that has a powerful negative consequence to it. So it doesn't get easier. There's no, it's like you read these parenting books and it's going to be like, these are the formulas. These are the 5 steps to get it. So a lot of it doesn't work. Some of it does, but a lot of it just doesn't work, right? Because everyone's an individual, and your child is mirroring you anyway. So every time you use a negative consequence to your child, at some point that bitch called karma,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to come back around at some point in
Yeah.
time. Yeah, some point in time. So we want to incentivize, whether it's knowing what the child likes and having one of those incentives at the other end of the activity. Call it bribe, business gift. It's business. It is business. A lot of, along with all the love and care and empathy you give children, there's a lot of business strategy in there as well. It's, it's the same stuff. It's negotiation, it's incentivization, it's marketing. It's how do we get other people to move their position a little bit? How do we continue to negotiate? It's if there's negative consequences, your children will eventually step back from negotiation rather than step forward. That's what will happen. They'll step back. Rather than engage about the problem and discuss it, if they think negative consequences are involved, they'll shut up. And we don't want that. We want kids to communicate. We want them to always tell us how they feel and what they're experiencing. And so we have to be careful of that. And that there's no magic formula. It's going to be different. One day you're going to try this and it's going to work perfectly. The next day you're going to do the same thing and it's not going to work at all. I think a lot of the parenting strategies that I've seen is that work are all individual. You find what works for you. Be aware of the negative consequences, because there's always going to be, the cost benefit analysis, right? Cost benefit analysis. What are the positives of doing this and what are the negatives of doing this? And as long as the negatives are minimized, it's okay. You'll always have a negative there. There will always be somebody who can come to you and say, you did that wrong. And you can go, yep. And as long as you're happy with yourself saying, yep, I'm not perfect, and maybe I do need a better strategy. As long as you're happy with yourself doing that, it's okay. Because it's going to be different every time. So, and children eventually follow their parents. So, I would suggest parents getting ready, putting their shoes on, putting their jacket on, getting everything ready to go outside. And also, here's a final point. Parents enjoying what they are doing. If the children see the parents happy to do something, then children will naturally be attracted to that happiness and want to do that activity too. If parents are doing things that they don't want to do, oh my God, we've got to go and see Bob again about something. Do you think the kids are going to be happy? If the parents are not happy to do it, and they're asking the children to be involved, the children are not going to be happy. So you kind of have to be enthusiastic, maybe sometimes slightly overly enthusiastic about everything. Does that make sense? What does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, because because the children are going to pick up on whether you want the children to or not. The children will automatically know whether you're happy or angry or frustrated or sad. The children will know automatically. You can't lie to them. They will know automatically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a little bit like, oh, I don't want to do this, kid's going to be exactly the same. Oh, I had to go somewhere and I didn't want to go there. And then the kids didn't want to go. Why do you think the kids didn't want to go? The kids didn't want to go because you didn't want to go. If you're not happy and enthusiastic about doing it, you can't complain about other people not wanting to be involved, even if they're your kids. So, and I've seen that so many times
Mm-hmm.
where the children won't do stuff because the adults have to do it and they're not happy about it. And the kids don't want to be unhappy. So there's that as well. It's imagine children as all-seeing and all-knowing beings that understand everything. And then if the children reject something, ask yourself, are they rejecting it because of me? Is this something I've done?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe something your partner's done. Maybe something that maybe some part of the kid that's them themselves. It might be something they picked up from some other kid in nursery school or something. I don't know. There's a million possibilities. There's a million possibilities. And I think just being open to the fact that there's not one magic formula. Here's another final point. Time. You have to give kids time. Kids don't understand this concept of 5 minutes. You say, all right, we're going in 5 minutes. You think your child understands 5 minutes? No concept of what 5 minutes is at all. None. They don't. Your time pressure of we have to get to the shops or the meeting or
Mm-hmm.
wherever it is we need to go. Your experience of time pressure and logic doesn't exist within the child. The child thinks they have eternity to put their clothes on. They think they have eternity to eat their dinner, eternity to play. So that has to be factored in as well, that their perspective of the world in terms of time is very, very different from ours. So, and that's why the children are not in a rush. They're not in a rush to put their clothes on because
Mm-hmm.
it's the adults that are in a rush.